On Friday, January 25, 2019, tragedy struck a quiet neighborhood in the Tomball area. Residents were startled by the sound of 4 gunshots, followed by a harrowing discovery. Elizabeth Barazza, a beautiful and kind 29-year-old woman, had been attacked. The culprit had already fled the scene. Although Elizabeth was still alive when neighbors found her, the situation was dire and deeply unsettling. She was airlifted to Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston, Texas. Despite the best efforts of medical professionals, she was pronounced dead the following day. To this day, the case remains unsolved, leaving her loved ones in agony as they continue to seek justice. Losing someone you care about is devastating, but the pain is compounded when the person responsible remains unidentified. Welcome to Bad Things. As usual, we'll be looking at the timeline, the facts, and the theories to determine who most likely killed Elizabeth Barazza. Elizabeth Barazza was born on June 26, 1989, to her parents Robert J. Nuelle Jr. and Rosemary. She preferred to be called Liz, as she found the nickname more exciting and fitting to her personality. Liz grew up in Southeast Texas and was known for her ability to see the best in her family and friends. She enjoyed both reading and listening to audiobooks. Her enthusiasm for stories extended to being a devoted fan of Harry Potter and Star Wars. Her father played a significant role in nurturing her interests, encouraging her to explore these hobbies further. As she grew older, Liz also developed a fascination with costume design, diving into the world of creativity and self-expression through her creations. Married life. After graduating from Klein Collins High School in 2008, Liz decided to attend Sam Houston State University, a choice that would change her life. It was there she met her future husband, Sergio Barazza. Remarkably, the two bonded over their shared love for Harry Potter and Star Wars, a connection that deepened their attraction to one another. In 2012, Liz earned her bachelor's degree in psychology. 2 years later, on February 1, 2014, she married Sergio, the person she described as her best friend, someone who truly understood her and celebrated her for who she was. Their life together was simple but fulfilling. While they didn't have children, they cherished their puppy, Diesel, who added joy to their home. In 2016, they took another step in building their life together by purchasing a house on Cedar Walk Drive in Tomball. Despite their shared hobbies and quality time together, Liz and Sergio also focused on their careers. Liz worked as a data reporter for the Rosen Group, while Sergio was employed at a flooring company owned by his father, Oscar Barazza. A passion for charity. In addition to their shared love for Star Wars, Liz and Sergio were deeply committed to giving back to their community. In an interview, Liz's father, Bob Nuelle Jr., highlighted the couple's involvement with the 501st Legion. It's a group of volunteers who craft intricate, screen-accurate Star Wars costumes and visit hospitals to bring joy to sick children. To join the group, members must create costumes that meet professional standards, something Liz and Sergio excelled at. Their participation in the 501st Legion perfectly combined their creativity and compassion, allowing them to make a positive impact while indulging in something they loved. They started with Sergio, and Sergio built the standard stormtrooper, and Liz became a handler, and helped where should, because what's really important in the 501st is whenever you see a helmeted character. So Darth Vader, stormtrooper, TIE fighter pilot, any helmeted character. Their visibility ends right about here, and so if you're in a crowd with little kids and little kids are gonna come running up to these characters, this whole area is obscured because you have limited visibility in those helmets. So the role of a handler is to do 2 things. Number 1, keep the public safe, and number 2, keep the character safe. This was what Liz truly lived for. By 2019, at the time of her death, she was serving on the command staff as an event coordinator for the South Texas squad. She and Sergio were skilled at managing their budget, maintaining multiple accounts for specific purposes, according to Liz's mother, Rosemary. Rosemary also discussed Liz's plan to host a garage sale to earn some extra money. She believed that even if Liz had sold everything, she might have only made a couple of $100s. True to her generous nature, Liz was the kind of person who would readily agree to lower prices if someone needed a good deal. The day of the tragic incident. On January 25, 2019, at around 2 a.m., security cameras captured footage of a dark-colored Nissan truck as it quietly passed by the couple's home. Although the vehicle may have made some noise, it would have likely been dismissed as just another faint sound of the night. Little did anyone know, it would later become a crucial piece of evidence in the case. At 6:08 a.m., Liz left for her morning drive to the local Starbucks to get her coffee. She returned home at 6:16 a.m. and began preparing for the garage sale. Sergio, who had been at home with Liz, vividly remembered every moment of that hour. We started preparing for the garage sale. I helped her with a few big items. I was even a little bit late for work to make sure I could help her with everything I could. Now we're going to discuss the most shocking part of this case. Before we continue, we'd like to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you're new. We have many more mysterious cases to cover, and we don't want you to miss out, guys. At 6:47 a.m., the same dark-colored Nissan Frontier reappeared in the neighborhood. It pulled into the parking lot of the Goddard School before driving out and onto a different street, seemingly trying to avoid being noticed. At 6:48 a.m., Sergio left for work in his white van. Just moments later, something terrible happened. The truck reappeared, this time with a clear intent. At 6:52 a.m., Liz was standing at the top of her driveway, still preparing for her garage sale. Someone stepped out of the truck and approached her. Liz greeted the stranger with a good morning. Their conversation lasted only about 6 seconds. However, the encounter didn't end awkwardly. The stranger wasn't empty-handed. Moments later, the peaceful quiet of the neighborhood was shattered by the sound of 4 rapid gunshots. This tragic event unfolded in approximately 30 seconds. Within the next minute, around 6:53 a.m., the mysterious individual ran back to the truck and drove away, leaving the scene. This is so troubling. A woman who had been setting up for her garage sale just moments before was now suffering terribly. But wait, the culprit was still there. A moment later, the same truck returned to Liz's home. It appeared that the person inside was observing the scene, either to confirm that Liz had died or to make sure no evidence was left behind. Then the truck drove off, disappearing without a trace and never to be seen again. Candy Ellis, a vigilant neighbor who had heard all 4 gunshots, urgently called 911. It was 3 gunshots real fast, one after the other. Then it'll wait a couple seconds, and then it was another gunshot. Cypress Creek EMS rushed to the crime scene and called for Memorial Hermann Life Flight. Liz was airlifted to the hospital in critical condition. However, as we've discussed, she died the next day. Tragically, she took her last breaths in the same hospital she had often visited to bring joy to sick children. Sergio arrived shortly after the neighbor's call informed him of the incident and realized he had lost the most beautiful person in his life. He later expressed comfort in knowing that the last thing he had said to Liz before leaving for work was "I love you." It's important to note that Liz was an organ donor. Ultimately, her heart, liver, kidneys, and corneas were donated to 4 strangers. It's truly remarkable that even after her tragic death, she was able to save lives when an evil person tried to take hers. Clearly, these 4 families and everyone she had helped throughout her life will never forget her. Investigation. The police released the video footage to the public, hoping to gather any information that could help move the case forward. Liz's family held a news conference to advocate for justice, drawing hundreds of family members and friends to raise awareness. To support the cause, they sold shirts that read, "Justice for Liz, may the force be with you, always." The shirts were priced at $20, with the proceeds going to Crime Stoppers. Additionally, her loved ones set up a GoFundMe account to raise money for a reward in hopes of finding the culprit. Crime Stoppers soon announced a $20,000 reward for information leading to the identification of the mysterious individual. Unfortunately, this case was unlike the typical investigations that law enforcement dealt with. It was difficult even to determine the person's gender. The only descriptions available were that the individual was wearing tall white boots and a long white dress, which could have been a bathrobe or a costume. They either had long hair or were wearing a wig. The individual's walking style, height, and attire initially suggested they were a woman, but the low light of the early morning hours made it difficult for the cameras to capture clear details. Additionally, the police found no shell casings at the crime scene, suggesting that the perpetrator used a revolver. The truck quickly gained significant attention, and investigators worked tirelessly to gather tips to track the driver. It was identified as a 2013 or newer four-door black Nissan Frontier Pro 4X. However, like other leads, this information didn't prove useful. What troubled investigators most was finding a motive for the crime. Liz was known as a kind and beloved person who posed no risks or engaged in dangerous activities that would lead to enemies. Additionally, nothing was stolen, ruling out a robbery. Investigators also examined Liz's relationship with Sergio, as he was the last known person to be with her. However, they found nothing unusual between them. Their relationship appeared loving and perfect. With no suspects or solid evidence, the case remains unsolved. More than 5 years later, Liz's family continues to wait for justice. Before we share our thoughts, please feel free to share any theories you may have. Target by a father-in-law. This theory is particularly shocking because it diverges from the main events we've discussed. It involves Sergio's father, Oscar Barazza. Sergio informed investigators that there had been tensions between him and his father. It's believed that Oscar had multiple affairs, which upset Liz as they had impacted her life as well. Additionally, since Sergio worked for Oscar, this became a significant part of the investigation. One key detail that emerged was that Sergio's last paycheck had bounced, reportedly because Oscar intended to use the money to pay for his lover. A victim of the wrong target. What if the killer actually intended to target someone else? Liz may have become an unintended victim, mistaken for another woman who matched her description. This theory suggests that the killer could have been a professional who returned to the scene after initially leaving, possibly realizing they had targeted the wrong person and wanting to assess the situation. Based on this scenario, Liz and the killer were strangers to each other, and Liz would not have been surprised to encounter strangers as she was preparing for a garage sale and expected people to come by. Additionally, the camera footage shows the suspect wandering through the neighborhood before the attack, suggesting they were unfamiliar with the area. Neighbors also confirmed that no one in the neighborhood drove that type of vehicle. Harris County Sheriff's Office Deputy Wallace Wyatt clarified that Liz greeted the person in a friendly manner, saying hi. After a brief conversation, Liz spotted the gun in the killer's hand and flinched in reaction. Tragically, she was shot 3 times in the chest and once in the head. This suggests that the killer was a stranger and likely a hired assassin who made a fatal mistake. Crime of passion. We know that the couple was known for their strong bond and deep understanding of each other. They shared many interests and spent most of their time together. What if someone who was envious of their perfect life became so consumed by jealousy that they plotted such a heinous act? This would suggest that the person responsible knew them well, possibly a friend, family member, or even someone from the 501st Legion. Sergio later married a woman named Amber, explaining that he met her about a year and a half after the tragedy. They shared a common grief, as Amber had lost her sister, which helped them connect and find some stability. However, some speculate that Amber might have been the one who was jealous of their relationship and responsible for Liz's murder. She later connected with Sergio, possibly believing she had achieved her goal. We believe this was a crime of passion. While this is just a theory, it's based on strong evidence and statements compared to the other theories we've discussed. Sergio's theory involving his father, Oscar, had many inconsistencies. When Oscar was questioned about the bounced paycheck, he clarified that he was waiting for a client payment and acknowledged having affairs, but he denied any involvement in the case. Oscar also passed a polygraph test, which further casts doubt on this theory. Now, could Liz have been the wrong target? While this theory seems plausible, consider the interaction Liz had with the killer. They had time to recognize their target. Liz wasn't a housewife or an introvert. She had a strong presence due to her involvement in various groups. It seems unlikely that she was mistaken for another woman in the neighborhood. Now listen to what Rosemary said. Well, maybe somebody was jealous of her. Maybe they were jealous of Sergio and Liz's relationship. Maybe they were jealous of, that they were able to have a nice home and go on vacations, and they were living a dream life. One possible motive could be that Liz's upcoming plans fueled their jealousy. Liz was preparing for her 5th wedding anniversary, and she and Sergio were set to leave for a trip on Sunday, just 2 days after the tragic incident. Liz had already packed the suitcase for their trip, which Sergio still kept. Sergio might have known that jealousy had triumphed, breaking a true bond of love. We feel for Liz's family, who are still waiting for justice. We hope the case will be resolved soon, possibly in 2025. What do you think? Did we miss anything? Share your thoughts in the comments.